Have you ever wondered if whoever your granddad was, he was the Axeman, or Rub the Salt In, the Axeman who cut people's heads off, or Rub the Salt In when people were flogged, or he could have been the Hangman, couldn't he? Operated the trapdoor on the hanging rig or whatever it was called, the gallows. I don't know, but I mean, I sometimes wonder, because the only thing I know about my granddad was, well, he must have existed or I wouldn't. We don't know his name or anything. We don't know why my grandma was drunk, but possibly something to do with her childhood. I don't know. Because, there was, she had 6 or 7 sisters and a brother, and they lived in a house about this size. This is deemed fit for 2. But when Dad was born in 1927, there was no social services, there was no social workers, there was no social security. So if you had a small holding like my dad's granddad had, and he was struck by lightning and killed, well, but to put it bluntly, your family were in the shit. Some of them have done better than me. My brother has, but some of the family never did do very well, and I'm one of them. Even though I was an award-winning student, they just say, "Oh, no experience, goodbye," or "You'd have to start as a trainee." Yeah, but when your mother's just had an heart attack, and you're at college, and you really want a job, because there was entertainment. There was no opportunities really then. There was BBC One, BBC Two, and ITV, and possibly Channel 4. Now there's the internet and everything. Everybody has an opportunity, but I didn't. And I didn't even want to do it. I mean, I was only in 2 school plays. I was bullied into them both. And the second one, at my last school, I only had to say one word, and I messed that up. I'm not jealous of people who can do things like that, even though they could possibly want. I don't know about now, but I'm told they can't now, but I'm told they could make an awful lot more money than I could as an engineer. But I can't get a job as an engineer because I've no experience. I'm just qualified. Yeah, but I built an Austin Mini before I studied for my national. And originally I studied mechanical engineering, and then I sort of specialised in vehicle engineering because I was interested in cars. And my mother wanted me out of the job I was in because she wasn't happy about the jobs I was getting, because her dad was the county audit clerk, but he had to retire early because of heart trouble, possibly caused by the stress of the job, and he had to retire quite a few years early, and didn't last long as a county audit clerk. They soon put somebody in above him because he just couldn't take the stress. You might think that's a wimp out, but in the 1950s, he had a top job at the county council. He didn't have a car. He didn't have a driving licence. He had his own house, but he never learnt to drive. Never wanted to. There was no need to in those days. Yeah, I mean, I've got a car, and it's one my dad gave me, because I fixed the engine on it. And at the age of 89, he'd become deaf, and in fact, we finally convinced him he wasn't fit to drive. And when I fixed the car, he says, "You can have it." And I'd put about what? He had put it all on my credit card. I didn't know Dad had money in the bank. And I couldn't charge him for repairing a car that he'd given me. So I put it on my credit card because I had no money. Did I actually have an income? I don't think I did. That's the second time in my life I haven't had an income, and I haven't bothered to sign on. But for 18 months, 2 years after leaving the last serious job I had, I was on half benefits because I wouldn't tell them why I left. Well, if you're fearing for your life, you're not going to tell them anything, are you? And the thing is, if I told them what I actually thought, it may have destroyed the marriage, and I'd have been fearing for my life again, wouldn't I? Possibly. But nowhere near as bad as the first time. But yeah, I mean, I should have only had half benefits for 6 months, but for some reason, I was still on half benefits after 2 years, and I just stopped bothering to go and sign on because it wasn't worth walking 2 miles for 15 quid every week. And I've told them recently that they rang to check about some benefit, because I'm entitled to it now. Despite how much I inherited off Dad, I can claim benefits now. And I said to him, exactly what happened, what was going through my mind. I don't know whether I told him it because it was a mistake or a misunderstanding, but I told him exactly what I was thinking when I worked. And I don't know whether they believe me, because they'll hear all sorts of stories like that too, by lazy people who don't want to work. But I did want to work. I've had 21 jobs since I was 13, not because I'm a bad employee. But I mean, in the end, I just started, the employers messed me about, so I started messing them about. Well, they make you like that, don't they, if they treat you badly? And the thing is, I'm not a bad worker, and if I was an award-winning student, how the hell can I be useless? Somebody said I was useless, some dickhead manager. Yeah, Billy Shitface, he was shit-faced every day, and probably whacked off every night as well. I don't care, I'm sick of it all. I mean, I've told them straight, you know, I've done as much as I can. I'm trying to get a job, but I doubt if I will with it. I was diagnosed with an illness that was I was wrongly diagnosed. You mean some rock band did that out of vengeance because I messed them about for 3 months? Hey, they've been messing me about since the day I was born, but they won't admit it. They won't admit that their first album was called Maiden Voyage, and they won't admit that the second, obviously the third incarnation of that band is Still Buddy Paused in Transylvania, off the tits as usual. Well, they've been off the tits ever since they did that, haven't they? Or has somebody poisoned them and wrecked their mind? I don't know. I don't really care. I mean, he's put me right off fame and almost off life.